The meeting scheduled for July 13th, 2023 for the Committee on Rules and Judiciary has been called to order. I would like to say greetings and good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the testifiers. Good morning to the staff. Good morning to the people of the Virgin Islands, and of course, non-committee members. Before I start this committee meeting today, I just want to say to the listening and viewing audience, I would first like to extend my sincerest condolences to the friends and family of our territory's latest victim of suicide and our police detective, Delbert Phipps. Firstly, I want to take a moment to address persons, especially our young people, who deal with depression and other behavioral health issues today in this territory. Every day, it is our collective responsibility to watch out for each other and take care of each other. When you are going through challenges and are in need of help, I want to ask you, there's resources, there's a number that you can call. Please seek assistance at 988 or 1-800-273-8255 or call 911. Veterans, service members, and their families can press option 1 for services, and Spanish-speaking individuals utilize option 2 for assistance. VIPD, my fellow colleagues, I am just as shocked and angry and I hurt as you are hurting. I had the privilege of meeting Detective Phipps in 2021. He was an absolute professional, and I am comforted by the fact that his colleagues and this community share the same sentiment. To his family, I offer my continued prayers. In my capacity as the chair of Rules Committee on Rules and Judiciary, I would use my legislative powers to ensure we address this issue and propose legitimate solutions to bridge the gaps between the public safety and our justice system. During today's meeting, we will hear testimony from the governor's appointment. Lisa M. Alejandro, Commissioner of Virgin Islands Department of Property and Procurement. Today, we have 1 bill and 9 resolutions. So my colleagues, non-committee members, we got a long day. It's time to do the people's work, and now we would proceed. I request that the testifiers and those who are present in the chambers to please silence your phone. And at this time, I will direct the clerk to please proceed with the roll call.
Good morning. Senator Angel L. Bolquez Jr. Present. Senator Bolquez Jr. present. Senator Diane T. Capehart.
Present.
Senator Capehart present. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Senator Gittins absent. Senator Maurice C. James. Senator James absent. Senator Franklin D. Johnson. Here. Senator Johnson present. Senator Carla J. Joseph. Present. Senator Joseph present. Senator Milton Potter. Here. Senator Potter present. Madam Chair, you have 5 present, 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any correspondence to be read into the record today from any committee member?
Yes, there's 2.
Please proceed and read those.
Honorable Senator Diane T. Capehart, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, 3022 Estate, Golden Rock, St. Croix VI 00820. Dear Senator Capehart, I do apologize that due to a previous commitment, I cannot be present at the Committee on Rules and Judiciary meeting to be held on Thursday, July 13th, 2023. Kindly excuse my absence. I regret any inconvenience my absence may cause. Thank you for your understanding. Kind regards, Maurice C. James, Senator, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands.
Are there any other? Okay, go ahead, proceed.
Honorable Diane T. Capehart, Chairwoman, Committee on Rules and Judiciary. Dear Senator Capehart, I hope this correspondence reaches you in the best of health and spirits. Please be advised that I will be slightly delayed for today's hearing. I note the importance of the agenda items to be discussed, and I will be in the chambers as soon as possible. I thank you in advance for your understanding. Sincerely, Kenneth L. Gittins, Senator. Madam Chair, that's the end of correspondence.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please mark Senator Maurice James as excused and Senator Gittins as tardy. The testifiers are already in the will, and at this time, I would welcome you, Ms. Alejandro, to the 35th Legislature's meeting on Rules and Judiciary. At this time, I would ask that you proceed to read your testimony.
Thank you.
Identify yourself first, your name, and proceed to read your testimony.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, Lisa Maria Alejandro, Commissioner Nominee of the Department of Property and Procurement. Good morning, Honorable Senator Diane T. Capehart, Chairperson of the Committee on Rules and Judiciary, Vice Chair, Senator Milton E. Potter, committee members, other senators present, and the viewing and listening audience. I am Lisa Maria Alejandro, Commissioner Nominee of the Department of Property and Procurement. I open my testimony by first thanking God for this opportunity and the Honorable Governor Albert Bryan Jr. and Lieutenant Governor Tregenza A. Roach, Esquire, for their vote of confidence in my ability to serve the people of the Virgin Islands in this capacity. I further wish to thank and acknowledge those who are present with me today, both in chambers and viewing remotely, the employees of the Department of Property and Procurement, members of my senior staff, family, friends, and well-wishers. I appear before this body and the people of our great territory as a daughter of Virgin Islands soil. My genealogy not only represents the ethos of Virgin Islands culture, but contributes to the rich heritage of our people. I was born and raised on the island of St. Thomas to the late Joseph Henry and Maria Lanclos Henry. Being the eldest of 10 children, my mother took the role of parenting quite seriously and instilled in me strong family values and ethics. As a child, I witnessed the high regards and stewardship my mother devoted to her parents and her occupation, and how much she strongly believed in, and thus taught us that one's reputation is best defined by their actions. Growing up in a diverse, heritage-rich, and colorful family that saw beyond the boundaries of its own uniqueness taught me to take responsibility, to be accountable, charitable, and considerate, and empathetic towards others. I am also a product of the Virgin Islands public school system and was fortunate to have been taught by some of the greatest educators who understood that the backbone of sustainable development is the infusion of education and culture. One of those heroines was the late Lydia Bushelty of Evelyn Marcelli School, who taught me to use my talents in the art to advance my learning experience. This lesson proved beneficial, as upon graduation from the Ivana Idoraken High School, the Virgin Islands Department of Education granted me a scholarship to attend the University of the Virgin Islands for achieving high honors in English and musical arts. While anticipating a career in special education, I pondered pursuing a call to ministry, which I did, and became a licensed minister in 1990. However, my journey to this occasion would not have been possible without God and the support and coaching of my husband, Tomas Michael Alejandro, who believed in my abilities and encouraged me to continue my education while he took care of our family. As a result, I acquired with distinction a Bachelor's of Art in Business Administration and a Master's of Arts in Operations Management. Today, my husband and I celebrate 36 years of marriage and 2 sons, Tomas Michael Alejandro III and Theophanes Masada Alejandro. I consider my professional journey to be one divinely inspired, since from humble beginnings, I have been fortunate to work within various facets of a single industry, and after 27 years, I remain passionate. As instilled in my upbringing, I strongly believe leading by example is the greatest strategy for earning the respect of those we seek to influence and manage. Moreover, challenging myself to be the best at the task I am given, following the chain of command and embracing and valuing people for their uniqueness have been key elements in my professional growth, lifelong friendships, and personal success. My professional journey began in the private sector where, as an assistant buyer for luxury retailers for 12 years, I was responsible for the overall management of jewelry, watch brand purchases, inventories, and sales. As such, I played a vital role in ensuring the right brands were marketed, negotiated, stocked, and transferred to satellite locations throughout the Caribbean and Alaska. The overall experience exposed me to the nuts and bolts of supply chain logistics, integrative negotiations, and inventory and property management. One of the greatest experiences that embedded profound insight on the way I view process improvement was being a part of the private sector's point of sale advent. This electronic processing system allowed the company to track real-time transactions of a single merchandise anywhere in the world. From that viewpoint, I learned the change is inevitable and requires a mind shift. In 2001, I transitioned to public service and was hired as a special assistant to the Deputy Commissioner of Procurement at the Department of Property and Procurement. As special assistant, I was introduced to the world of public procurement and was exposed to all of the central government's procurement functions. At various times, I was tasked with performing the universe of public procurement functions. I was later promoted to the role of contract administrator and chaired the evaluation committee for approximately 8 years. During those years, I successfully negotiated a few of the territory's first and most technical undertakings, such as the design, build, and operate wastewater management facilities in both districts, the Virgin Islands Police Department's third-party fiduciary under its consent decree, and the interagency agreement for the development of the state longitudinal data system known as the Virgin Islands Virtual information system. After assessing the needs of the Virgin Islands Department of Education, VIDE's leadership, along with its third-party fiduciary agent and the United States Department of Education, determined that VIDE needed to establish a fully functioning procurement and contract administration office to maintain its eligibility for U.S. Department grant funds. Thus, in May of 2011, I was hired by the Virgin Islands Department of Education to establish and manage the contract administration program. During my first year at the Department of Education, I was given the absolute opportunity to shadow the department's legal counsel, where I gained holistic insight into VIDE's contractual needs and compliance requirements, and developed greater proficiencies in contract research and writing. During the subsequent years until my departure from VIDE in 2016, significant milestones and achievements were accomplished, including the rollout of the new procurement division and its contract administration program, establishment of the property leasing and rental forms and procedures, capacity building of the procurement hirees, and full obligation of grant funds tied to contracts. Subsequently, working at the Virgin Islands Port Authority added another layer of property and procurement proficiencies, enabling me to experience the operations of the industry from all facets. During my tenure at Port Authority, I had the opportunity of establishing a procurement division, which included revision and completion of the authority's procurement policies and procedures, management of the Division of Purchasing and Warehousing, and establishment of its inventory and cycle counts procedures. I was also instrumental in the development of the authority's asset management policy and contributed to the overall property, procurement, and management of the authority's operations. Since returning to the Department of Property and Procurement in February of 2019 under the leadership of former Commissioner Anthony D. Thomas, I was assigned oversight of the divisions of procurement, vendor management, and central stores. Being a part of the dynamic core leadership team of DPP has been my greatest professional experience, and I am grateful to the former Commissioner Anthony D. Thomas to have been given the opportunity to serve with this phenomenal team and share in its achievements. From 2019 until now, the Department of Property and Procurement continues to grow in innovation and competencies, and is poised to be named amongst the nation's 1% as we prepare for the rollout of a fully integrated e-procurement system in GVI. My assignment to lead this initiative, as well as the DPP's transition into its paperless hallmark in procurement, the rollout of the department's new procurement procedural manual, work on proposed legislation which resulted in Bill number 330269, now Act number 8436, passed by the 33rd Legislature, and the government's membership into the National Association of State Procurement Officials showcases my qualifications and experience in property and procurement operations and the propensity for process improvements. As I draw your attention to the position for which I am before this body today, I take no reservations in saying that I understand the gravity of the department's duty to our people and this territory. This responsibility and the overarching authority that governs DPP operations are codified in the Virgin Islands Code under Title 3, Chapter 13, Sections 211 through 221, Title 31, under Chapter 20, Sections 151 to 169, and Chapter 23, Sections 231 to 251, and the associated rules and regulations. I am cognizant of the opportunities and challenges we face as the custodian agency of the government's fleet, its property, assets, and all acquisitions. Hence, I am purposefully driven to safeguard against asset abuse by tracking data that is useful for the proper management and increased lifespan expectancy of the government's fleet. As fuel prices continue to soar, negotiating beyond the pump rates is almost impossible due to the logistics that compound rack rate costs. Therefore, managing fleet utilization must become a priority to reduce waste and ensure the government's fleet operate at peak performance. Next, reducing bureaucracies that present themselves or the narrative as lawful must be weaned out of the traditional mill to foster property management and a procurement system that is productive, accountable, and transparent while having real-time insights for managing performance and government spend. As we work to improve operations, legislation is again being drafted to support acquisitions and property innovation that align with the federal standards and the industry practices, best practices, and constantly evolving times. The above initiatives took root after I was placed as Assistant Commissioner in February of this year, as I considered the department's present conditions and how we could create a system of sustainable productivity that improves the service we provide to our stakeholders, to include the user agencies, vendors, and the public. In looking towards creating that system of sustainable productivity, the following highlights a few short-term goals that I believe are the building blocks to achieving greater efficiency. The short-term goal consists of, first, skill management, succession planning. Two recurring are the discussions regarding the lack of skill sets and competencies due to employee retirements and resignations. The nature of what we do is tied to stringent laws and policies and experience for the purpose of protecting taxpayers' dollars and the government's interests. Establishing a plan that commits management to tracking these skill sets, recruiting with focus, mentoring employees to transfer knowledge and expertise, and creating standard operating procedures are paramount to building and retaining a skilled workforce. Another short-term goal is focused on completing the e-procurement integration, allowing all agencies to carry out their procurements as well as make payments to vendors through an account payable module within one system. Additionally, adding the space management property vendors to GVI buy for invoicing purposes will enhance the payment process for additional GVI vendors. Next, to complete an assessment of existing property and procurement laws that will ignite the process for proposing legislation to reflect best practices in procurement and property management. And finally, we remain focused on our short-term goal to complete the government's fixed asset and transportation process and procedural manuals. This includes updating the policies and procedures on the acquisition, use, tracking, and disposition of fixed assets, and establishing and implementing a vehicle use policy and procedural manual to extend asset life expectancy. Deeper, developing stronger collaborations between agency stakeholders is necessary to develop a clear understanding of their needs and compliance requirement. This will increase process lead time in the acquisition and delivery of goods and services, as well as a diverse team of contract writers. Secondly, by way of long-term goals, creating a plan for continuous process improvement is transformational and will allow the department to be agile and functionable during times of uncertainties as realized during the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, establishing a system of check and balances is necessary to audit the agency's performance and prevent recurring errors and practices that may affect the government's ability to receive federal funding and other funding opportunities. And lastly, we are strategically working to develop a real property management plan to increase revenue and drive property improvement towards ensuring the highest and best possible uses. Although what I have outlined may appear to be far-reaching, these are fundamental business practices that are achievable, particularly when employees are empowered to play a role in the decision-making process. Further, and given the team of professionals at the Department of Property and Procurement, and with your favorable consideration, I strongly believe we stand on the horizon of reimagining business operations for the next normal. I'm excited about the opportunities which lie before us, and if confirmed, I am committed to leading the Department of Property and Procurement with integrity and innovation. This concludes my testimony, and I thank all the committee members for your time this morning and favorable consideration of my nomination. I stand available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alejandro. This is Alejandro. At this time, I would like to recognize committee member Senator Gittins on St. Croix. Madam Clerk, can you mark Senator Gittins as present? Before we proceed with our line of questioning, I would ask at this time that we swear you in, Ms. Alejandro. So I'm going to begin by saying, do you solemnly, if you would stand and raise your hand. That's your right hand? Good, yeah. Do you solemnly affirm under penalty or perjury that the testimony you will give to this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge and belief?
I swear.
Thank you. So at this time is where we would ask our questions, but in my opening statement, I forgot to mention someone on St. Croix passed away, Miss Gloria Canigata Waterman. If you know her, she was a leader in our community, and I just want to say my condolences to her family. Gigi and Eugene, my condolences to you. She would be definitely remembered for all her contributions to this community. So we will proceed today. We have a long agenda, and I just want to say that when I forgot, I'm going off script. Madam Clerk, can you please read the agenda into record?
Block 1, Governor's nomination of Lisa M. Alejandro, Commissioner of the Virgin Islands Department of Property and Procurement. Block 2, Bill number 35-0013, an act amending Title 20 Virgin Islands Code, Part 2, Chapter 35, relating to the issuance of limited local purpose identification cards and operator's license, sponsored by Senators Samuel Carrion, Angel L. Bocas Jr., and Kenneth L. Gittins, co-sponsored Marvin A. Blyden and Senator Marvin A. Blyden and Senator Ray Fonseca. Invited testifier, Barbara McIntosh, Director, Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Block 3, Bill number 35-0033, an act honoring and commending Mr. Ben Buren Benny Steffens posthumously for his heroism in saving the lives of a mother and her children, and to rename the Bavoni Road route number 30, specifically from the entrance of the abattoir to the entrance of the Bertha C. Buscelti Middle School, the Ben Buren Benny Stevens Drive, sponsored by Senators Ray Fonseca, Marvin A. Blyden, Angel L. Bocas Jr. Bill number 35-0036, an act amending Title III Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 16, Section 274, Subsection F, Paragraph 11, to clarify the duties and responsibilities of the Executive Director of the Taxicab Commission, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Bocas Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden, co-sponsored by Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Bill number 35-0075, an act to designate the third Monday in February as Virgin Islands Governor's Day, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Bocas Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden. Bill number 35-0078, an act requiring the Commissioner of the Department of Tourism to conduct a survey to assist in the establishment of an official dish and dessert of the Virgin Islands, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Bocas Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden. Block 4. Block 4. Bill number 35-0029, an act honoring and commending Donna Marie Christensen, MD, for her tireless contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands in the medical field and representation in the United States Congress, sponsored by Senators Norvel E. Francis Jr., Angel L. Bocas Jr., Franklin D. Johnson, and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph. Bill number 35-0035, an act amending Title 20 Virgin Islands Code, Part 2, Chapter 39, Section 436B, expanding the definition of disabled veteran for the purpose of eligibility for a handicap window decal, sponsored by Senators Franklin D. Johnson and Alma Francis Heiliger. Bill number 35-0041, an act awarding the Virgin Islands Medal of Honor posthumously to former Senator Edgar Milton Ayers. And Bill number 35-0041, an act awarding the Virgin Islands Medal of Honor posthumously to former Senator Edgar Milton Ayers for his commendable public service and contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands, sponsored by Senator Kenneth L. Gittins and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph. Bill number 35-0100, a resolution honoring and commending Music in Motion School of Higher Dance Education and its founder, Charlita Schuster, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Music in Motion Dance Academy, sponsored by Senator Samuel Carrion. Bill number 35-0101, a resolution honoring and commending Dr. Olaf Branko Hendricks. For his tireless years of remarkable and invaluable contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands in the field of psychiatry, his advocacy for social justice for individuals with behavioral health and substance use issues, and for his music, sponsored by Senator Franklin D. Johnson and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph. Madam Chair, that's the end of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I will take a quick recess of 3 minutes. are now back on the record. I am going to ask the Madam Clerk to reread the agenda. There was an error on the agenda, so we're going to have the Madam Clerk to reread the agenda into record.
Block 1, Governor's nomination of Lisa M. Alejandro, Commissioner of Virgin Islands Department of Property and Procurement. Block 2, Bill number 35-0013, Amendment number 35-255, and Act amending Title 20, Virgin Islands Code, Part 2, Chapter 35, relating to the issuance of limited local purpose identification cards and operators licenses, sponsored by Senators Samuel Carrion, Angel L. Boquez Jr., and Kenneth L. Gittins. Co-sponsors Senator Marvin A. Blyden and Senator Ray Fonseca. Invited testifier, Barbara McIntosh, Director, Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Block 3, Bill number 35-0036, an act amending Title 3, Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 16, Section 274, Subsection F, Paragraph 11, to clarify the duties and responsibilities of the Executive Director of the Taxicab Commission, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Boquez Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden, co-sponsored by Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Bill number 35-0075, an act to designate the third Monday in February as Virgin Islands Governor's Day, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Boquez Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden. Bill number 35-0078, an act requiring the Commissioner of the Department of Tourism to conduct a survey to assist in the establishment of an official dish and dessert of the Virgin Islands, sponsored by Senators Angel L. Boquez Jr. and Marvin A. Blyden. Block 4, Bill number 35-0029, an act honoring and commending Donna Marie Christensen, MD, for her tireless contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands in the medical field and representation in the United States Congress, sponsored by Senators Norvel E. Francis Jr., Angel L. Boquez Jr., Franklin D. Johnson, and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph and Senator Javon E. James Sr. Bill number 35-0033, an act honoring and commending Mr. Ben Boren Benny Stevens posthumously for his heroism in saving the lives of a mother and her children, and to rename the Bavoni Road route number 30, specifically from the entrance of the Arbitrator to the entrance of the Bertha C. Bushelty Middle School. The Ben Boren Benny Stevens Drive, sponsored by Senators Ray Fonseca, Marvin A. Blyden, and Angel L. Boquez Jr. Bill number 35-0035, an act amending Title 20, Virgin Islands Code, Part 2, Chapter 39, Section 436B, expanding a definition of disabled veteran for the purpose of eligibility for a handicapped window decal, sponsored by Senators Franklin D. Johnson and Alma Francis Heiliger. Bill number 35-0041, an act awarding the Virgin Islands Medal of Honor posthumously to former Senator Edgar Milton Ives for his commendable public service and contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands, sponsored by Senators Kenneth L. Gittins and Franklin D. Johnson, and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph. Bill number 35-0100, and resolution honoring and commending Music in Motion School of Higher Dance Education and its founder, Charlita Schuster, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of the establishment of the Music in Motion Dance Academy, sponsored by Senator Samuel Carrion. Bill number 350101, a resolution honoring and commending Dr. Olaf Branko Hendricks for his tireless years of remarkable and invaluable contributions to the people of the Virgin Islands in the field of psychiatry, his advocacy for social justice for individuals with behavioral health and substance use issues, and for his music. Sponsored by Senator Franklin D. Johnson and co-sponsored by Senator Carla J. Joseph. Madam Chair, that's the end of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, I would ask that you have your conversations outside if you cannot keep it quietly. At this time, I would like to recognize a motion. You may proceed, Senator Bolkes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move to reorder the agenda by placing Block 2 as Block 3 and Block 3 as Block 2. I so move.
Any objections to this motion? Hearing none, so ordered. At this time, I forgot to acknowledge someone who is here with me from St. Croix. I would like to introduce Julissa A. King. She pursues a dual bachelor's in public policy and service and a master in public administration at the Florida International University. Julissa enjoys reading, research, analysis, and matters that involve, if I may, involve conflict resolution. She is a passionate student with drive and perseverance to educate, assist, and advocate on behalf of her community. Julissa King is the daughter of Adalisa Jackson, a native of Crucian. Thank you. Senator Gittins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't actually following just now. I think there was a motion to reorder the agenda. However, on the agenda, we have agency heads that's testifying, that's here to testify. And I'm just saying, if we're going to reorder the agenda, we should take into consideration their schedule. So if that's the case, should they be excused at this time and asked to return if they can, or
Senator
what will
Gittins?
take place?
Senator Gittins, after I introduce a non-committee member, or acknowledge a non-committee member, Senator Fonseca, who is here with us today, then we would proceed with our nominee on the floor, and then after that, we would proceed with the second block.
So we're asking if since we've readjusted the calendar, the agenda, so the testifier who is here, agency head, they can be excused at this time.
Senator, the sponsor of the bill requested that we move the amendment to the end of the block, and that's what we're doing at this time before we proceed. So we're going to be on schedule. We're still going to see Alejandro, who is before us today, and we're going to now entertain colleagues for their questions and then proceed into block 2. Thank you. So, colleagues, before I proceed with entertaining questions, I would like you to know that we are going to have a 5-minute line of questioning. If we need to go to a second round, then we will do so. So at this time, we will begin with Senator Bolkes, then Senator Franklin Johnson, then Senator Carla Joseph, Senator Milton Potter, Senator Gittins, Senator Fonseca, non-committee member, and then Senator Samuel Carrion, non-committee member. Senator Bolkes, you may proceed with your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening and viewing audience. Good morning, Central staff. And good morning to Designee Commissioner Alejandro. The Commissioner of Property and Procurement plays a vital role in managing government assets and overseeing the procurement process and promoting cost efficiency and ensuring accountability and implementing sound operational policies. Your responsibility to contribute to our effective governance is prudent of fiscal and financial management and the responsibility of public resources. Today, I would like to ask you a few questions on how you plan to stay updated with the latest trends, the best practices, and regulations for property and procurement management.
Thank you, Senator. Basically, I think that was my concept when I began to look into federal regulating bodies and other bodies so that we could remain current and in best practice. One of those bodies is the National NC. We have the NASPO, which we are part of the National Association of Procurement, and also include assets and property management as well. These bodies provide you with not just the changes in federal codes and regulation, they offer training to our staff, certification to our staff. As a matter of fact, we do have one of our employees that is up for a chronic award for sitting on the national procurement boards. So again, staying in touch with these bodies and ensuring that the employees are exposed to that, that is how we intend to stay on track.
Okay, very well. And I've been very impressed with the technological advancements of the department during the past few years. And I'm looking forward to see what else comes out the box as well.
Thank you, sir.
Also, what type of strategies do you plan to employ to ensure transparency and fairness and integrity of the procurement process?
Great question. So we began by the e-procurement system. The e-procurement system has provided transparency to our vendors. As a matter of fact, we do have testimonial from them. And the fact that we have not had any protests in regards to the process, bidders are able to see the process move from one phase to the next, the status of their bids, and it's also to a point where not even the department has access to bids and awards. It is all done through the system. Additionally, with our fleet management system, as well as our fleet management system in transportation as well, we have those capabilities to track performance, etc., to ensure that we have best life expectancies and transparency.
Okay, lovely, lovely. You blew your horn a little bit about assisting with some legislative language for the procurement. There was an act that was referred to. How do you plan to also, remain in compliance with those laws and regulations and ethical standards? And are there any other types of suggestions from a legislative standpoint that the department is looking at?
Absolutely. Yes, Senator. And so we presently have in draft legislation again to improve the acquisition process. And not only that, but as well as we are working on some property concerns that are in the code that impedes our ability to get maximum, revenues. So we will continue the process. We do have some in draft
1 minute.
currently, and we'll be rolling out pretty soon.
Okay, thank you. And what I would like to also ask is, from a scale of 1 to 10, what would you say or classify the morale of the department currently?
I think the morale of the department is fair, but it is a priority for me to move the needle up at least to about 8 or 9. Right now we're about, I would say, 7. But it's a priority of mine to move it up, and by doing so, it involves empowering employees as well as providing them with training, development, empowering them to be a part of the decision-making of the department as well. So we do have a plan for that.
Okay, excellent. And thank you for the time, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, everybody. And Commissioner nominee, I look forward to voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Senator.
Time.
Thank you, Senator Bolkes. I had the opportunity to meet Ms. Alejandro when I returned back into government, Department of Planning and Natural Resources. And I had the opportunity, I was tasked to oversee all the DPNR FEMA projects. And I had worked with property and procurement back in the day under environmental protection, and the processes that were in place back then to what was now implemented when I returned to DPNR, I know it was part of your doings also. And I just have to say that with such an important department, and having all these processes in place was very important, like having a checklist.
Yes.
And having that guidance, that it wasn't there, basic things to give government departments guidance. So I just want to say that you offer a wealth of expertise. When I read your bio, I was really moved, because I think being a commissioner in a department, you must know all the different divisions and programs and their mission. And you have been in this department and you understand what your responsibilities are. And this nomination that the governor sent, I am very elated to see your wealth of information that you have, your short-term goals, your long-term goals. And I'll ask some questions later on because I don't like to hog the chair as the chair. So I will yield to my colleague, Senator Johnson, for your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the testifier. Good morning to the viewing and listening audience. I'm impressed with what you say here today, and most of all, what I'm more impressed about, on page 8 of your testimony, you say, although I have outlined what may appears to be far-reaching, these are fundamental business practices that are achievable. And when I listen to that, it tells me you're walking with a big stick. That's what it tells me. And it's basically about people just doing their job. That's what the bottom line comes in government. You know, in my previous job before this, everybody used to come asking for a job. And I used to say, ask them if they want to work. Because everybody wants a check. But then trying to deliver is a whole different ball game. And this agency is very important and critical to the operation of government and how government function, if it's going to function and be progressing and moving this territory forward. This agency really holds the ball. And I see that you're talking about implementing an e-procurement. How would this speed the process up? And in what ways you see we're going to be beneficial to the agency?
Thank you, Senator. So we have begun the journey with the e-procurement system. We've already begun. Right now, the system is fully working in terms of acquisition. So bids, evaluation process is completely electronic. And we have been getting some really good feedback in terms of that from our vendors. When I talk about extending the e-procurement system, it's about onboarding as well our property side to ensure that payments can be processed more timely on the leasing side of things, and as well as integrating it to a point where agencies themselves can have a standalone, like the Department of Education, to manage their procurement within that single system.
What time frame are we talking about with the whole process and this new process as far as e-procurement? What timeline we looking at?
So we're looking to go completely integrated into the ERP system by November, end of November this year. and we will continue our implementation on the property side of things into late December of this year.
Okay, and you also spoke about tracking of government vehicles and the fleet,
Yes.
and especially the part with the gas coupons.
Yes, sir.
I kind of had some experience with seeing the numbers that are coming for gas, and how do we rectify that? How do we kind of bring it to a balance where it can be acceptable? Because sometimes you're seeing car running left, right, south, and the government work ain't getting done. But we're spending a lot of money in gas.
Yes.
Those prices does just blow my mind when I see what we pay in gas. What direction you plan to go with this, and how you intend to try and curtail it?
Great question, Senator. So it's not it's not unconscionable to begin talking about gas prices. Those are external factors that we cannot control. So we have to look at how can we get the greatest efficiency out of it, and that is by managing the fleet, ensuring that we are conducting preventative services, managing the time when cars are idle for too long,
1
especially in
minute.
this heat. It's not just about driving there. The cars are idle, and those are the things that we have been tracking and sending them out to notification to the agencies. We've also empowered now all commissioners to be able to view that tracking of their employees with the use of the government vehicles.
I smile when you say that, because I remember one day coming over here doing my other tasks, and I went by Emancipation Garden, and I saw one of the government vehicle there idling running. And the guys then was cleaning the park. So I said, "Boy, ain't nobody in this vehicle." So I went to the gentleman, I said, "Who's driving that vehicle?" And he said, "This gentleman." I said, "How come the vehicle running?" He said, "I want the car to be cool when I jump in it."
Yes.
And I asked him, "Do you leave your car idling so when you jump in it, it could be cool?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, turn it off now."
Yes, Senator.
And he thought I was joking. I said, "If I ever see this
Time.
again, I will make sure that you get reprimand
Yes.
out of the pocket." So I appreciate hearing these things, and I hope that we could be more physically responsible in this government in order to get this government to move in a better trend. And I could start off by telling you congratulations on your nomination. Quite sure you're going to do a good job. And my last question, that gentleman right there, Vincent Richards, keep the whip on him, okay?
Yes,
Make
sir.
sure you do your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. You have a full audience here. You have your staff on one side, and is this your family on the other side?
They're all integrated.
Integrated.
Yes, they're all. Thank
Well,
you.
welcome.
I do. Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain Senator Joseph for your 5 minutes.
Thank you so kindly, Madam Chair. A pleasant good morning to everyone, especially a pleasant good morning to you, nominee, Mrs. Lisa Alejandro, for the position of Commissioner of the Department of Property and Procurement. Want to begin my comments by indicating, first, I really commend the governor for noticing your talent, and more importantly, I want to commend you for saying yes. This is not an easy seat that you're coming into, and I pray that our God gives you the strength, the integrity, as well as a spirit of discernment to be able to carry out this work with a level of fidelity, especially should you pass this legislative questioning and vetting, and then go on to the full body for full consideration. Now, I read with relish your testimony. It was very well written. And also, I have some questions that came up from it. Specifically, let's take a look, and I just want to get your perspective further. Page 6 of page 8, you mention, hence I am purposely driven to safeguard against asset abuse, which is to me a level of integrity, understanding that we are all paid by hard-working taxpayers' money. And that goes towards stewardship. Now, how are you and your team, because you can't do it by yourself, how are you and your team going to ensure this? How are you moving to ensure that? And if you could be so succinct in your remarks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator. And so because we've invested in technology that allows us to do that, from printing reports, updating the staff, and ensuring that they too have a clear understanding of what their roles are as custodian of the government assets. So we have been doing that. We've been sending out notifications to those regards and ensuring compliance with those assets. We are also doing the asset manual. We're also getting ready to roll out transportation manual in regards to using government assets.
And you are right up my alley, because I like manuals. And I have created them, having worked in the federal side, those standard operating procedures. It's critical. How far away are you to getting that completed and to be able to roll it out? What's your time frame?
We expect to have it out. I believe we may have the asset draft ready for the new fiscal year, thereabout. The transportation is still in draft. And again, both of them are in draft. One is in the second draft, and we anticipate by next year it should be out.
Next year. Okay, so I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm going to take that note, because your department comes under the oversight. I have oversight over it with the committee I chair.
Yes.
So I'm making those copious notes of that. Now, I also wanted to ask you, and this is not in your testimony, but it's for me, how are you and your perspective as a public employee, public servant, is it that you see that the governor is your boss and you're only answerable to him? Or is it because of your public service? What is your perspective on public service and your overall alliance to being a public servant, if you're following me?
I am. Thank you, Senator. I talked earlier about being a licensed minister. I'm also a pastor. And so I would say it's not just to the governor. We answer to the people.
Repeat that again.
It's not only to the governor, but we answer to the people.
So that means when a senator calls you and say we're having an issue, you are not going to avoid our calls, is it?
That is correct. I'm not going to avoid your calls.
You are going to respond. Try to do it timely.
Yes,
because
Senator.
we have, I don't know if any other, my colleagues, but I have encountered, and it's bothersome to me. I'm sorry, I wrap up now, Madam Chair, if you would allow me quickly.
You may proceed.
Thank you kindly. It is bothersome that we don't understand that we are public servants being paid by the public people money. Hardworking people, and when I call you, it's not because I want to bother you. It's one of our people who pays me, right, that I'm calling you on their behalf. So I will be voted in the affirmative. I know I've sent you some correspondence earlier, but I'm hoping to have you and your fine staff come before the committee, which I chair, in the future. Thank you kindly, Madam Chair, for the leniency. I deeply appreciate it.
You're welcome, Senator Joseph. Before I proceed to Senator Potter, I just wanted to ask one question. As Mrs. Alejandro, you mentioned about internal processes that you're working on. And in your long-term goals, you said long-term goals consist of, and your first bullet was develop stronger collaboration between agency stakeholders understanding GVI's needs and compliance requirements. Tell me, what have you been doing to work with the stakeholders, work with these government departments for them to understand their responsibilities and all the things it entails when you're doing business with the government? Just tell me what are some of those plans that you plan to work with your stakeholders?
Thank you, Senator. In terms of being able to build strong, and if you notice, it was a long-term goal, because long-term goals mean that we're working on it currently, but we expect to see the fruit of those labors within the next 3 to 5 years. And we have done that by onboarding senior contract administrators who intimately work with the departments to understand what their requirements are, what their needs are, helping them in developing better scopes of work on that end as well. And also the training that we are providing our property team also helps us in collaborating more on the property side of things. We have been doing a lot of team meetings with staff and those within the respective areas of our business. So we have ramped up communication at the department with our stakeholders.
Thank you. I just have to mention, if my colleagues don't know of this manual, when I was dealing with those FEMA contracts, that was my Bible. Have you revised that manual?
As a matter of fact, I have a new, we have revised it, and we have a new issue that is coming out, I think, next week.
I just have to commend you, because that was such a great guide with giving you sample letters. And I just want to ask if all the departments have that manual.
All of them do have the manual, Senator, as well as we provided a training, a virtual training on how to utilize the manual.
Great, thank you. Senator Potter, you may proceed with your 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to Virgin Islanders and the listening and viewing audiences. And good morning, special good morning to you, Commissioner nominee Alejandro.
Good morning, Senator.
I want to really thank you for accepting the governor's challenge. I don't have to tell you, but this is probably one of the toughest jobs in government. It's really a no-win kind of thing. A procurement is essential. It's an essential component to the running of an organization, to the running of a government.
Yes.
That is how we acquire goods and services. And the goods and services stop, then for all intents and purposes, government comes to a screeching halt. So the person that you put in this position can't be some accidental person. You have to be very intentional. You have to know who you're putting in this very important post. And I am very comfortable, I must say, that the governor made a sound decision in appointing you to serve in this very important role.
Thank you, Senator.
I wanted to ask you what unique skills or attributes that you possess that you bring to this table that may not have been there before. I ain't put that pressure on you necessarily, but what unique skills and attributes do you bring to the table, do you believe?
Thank you, Senator. In my testimony, I shared that I believe that my journey was inspirational, and that I believe with all my heart. And when it is so designed, I have had the opportunity to see it from a user agency, so I understand what they go through, their frustration in getting work through to the department. I do understand what it is to be the sovereign working at the Department of Property and Procurement and holding the hatch. I understand what it looks like on the semi-autonomous agency side, having to go before boards. So I have seen the department, property management, asset management from all sides, and so I understand and is very sensitive to the needs as well of all sides. So I'm finding a level ground and a plane to be able to satisfy the government's need holistically.
Awesome. And one thing that you cited, in your testimony, you mentioned when you were talking about your long-term goals, you sort of reiterated that, you said that the nature of what we do is tied to stringent laws and policies and experience for the purpose of protecting taxpayers' dollars and the government's interests. And I thought about the fact that how do you balance the pressures to get things done quickly? Because there are pressures and forces on your shoulders to get it done quickly versus your obligation to maintain compliance with the procurement laws and policies. And I suspect that that is always a challenge historically to anybody who holds your seat. Are you prepared for that pressure, and how do you balance that as the leader of this department?
Well, I really think, Senator, thank you. I live in that environment. I live in it, but I think the most important thing is communicating. Communicating. At the end of the day, we are placed in these positions to make decisions, and sometimes they're tough. So I have to weigh between, do I allow a contract to lapse just because the agency sent it in at the last hour and it's $40 million versus 60,000. So we have to make those tough decisions, but we try our very best to communicate that to our stakeholders.
Important. Communication is essential. I wanted to ask you about this topic that we've discussed here in this territory for decades, probably from the time I was a child. There was talk about the need finally for us to have a government building. It makes logical sense. Everybody on the street will tell you, it's time. Everybody, it's sort of a no-brainer, but somehow it has never been able to
30 seconds.
to move to the next step of making it a reality. As the lead person in procurement and contracting in this territory, and you will be, because you will be confirmed, what role can you play? First of all, is there a viable need for this? And if so, how can you, as the procurement chief, lead the talks and the drive towards making something like that a reality?
Well, Senator, thank you for that question.
Time.
I want to share that I actually chaired the committee for the first time that initiative took ground, where we were looking for that. It was going to be a design, build, operate facility. Okay. There are a lot of variables involving that, as well as the government having the financial to fund something on that level. It did not go through because of that, the bonding that it would take, but also, Senator, I do believe in putting together resources that are shared. Mm-hmm. So we definitely will look into and are looking into and having those discussions with putting those agencies that have like services and stakeholders alike.
Exactly. It makes good sense. And I was thinking that it's sort of a unique situation that we find ourselves in with the potential for 12, 13 billion dollars that we have never seen before to somehow utilize funding. And I don't know what the rules and limitations might be, but perhaps that might be, the source of some funding for something like that. But I won't press you any further on that. Thank you very much, Commissioner Alejandro, and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Because I think you will be moving on to the next step.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, the Rules and Judiciary Vice Chair. Thank you. I want you to take us through this transition of property procurement from back in the day to now, where vendors are paid online. Is that correct? Well, they're paid in a different process. The ERP system, correct?
Yes.
So take us through the transition from back then when somebody would say, oh, we sent a package
Gotcha. Okay.
2 months ago, 3 months ago, did you get it? Take us through that process as far as how you transition and how effective it is now.
Well, in terms of the process, so removing the paper-based process not only compound and bottleneck the end goal, which was to pay the vendors as well. And there are still challenges. I want to say there are still challenges. However, again, from carriers involved in taking paperwork from one agency to the next, requisitions being handwritten, purchase orders being handwritten, and typewritten, so we've removed a lot of those processes, and now it's completely electronic. And that's where we're actually trying to do with GVI Buy in terms of allowing all of the vendors to be able to issue payments through GVI Buy and not through email through to the Department of Finance.
Thank you. Next, I would entertain Senator Gittins, our majority leader. You may proceed with 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to all. Nominee, thank you for accepting the nomination to lead this agency, which you have been a part for quite some time. Quite frankly, I was contemplating whether to ask any questions of the nominee, but it is my duty to do so. So I had to quite second guess myself. But with this agency in itself, there's a lot of external pressures when it comes to your department. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. And in knowing that, I wanted to ask you, how confident are you in your ability to independently carry out your duties and responsibilities as commissioner?
Thank you, Senator. I believe very strongly, and I live in terms of my integrity. And my integrity is not just about something written on paper, but I believe that I answer to a higher power. And with that, there are tough decisions that have to be made. I have made them. I've been placed in those positions where it even came to my job, and I have made those decisions. So, Senator, I believe with all my heart that I can make those tough decisions. I do make them daily. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that response. And your response, coupled with some of the things that you stated in your testimony, makes me believe like you can do this. And you just used a word that I like to use, and I don't take it lightly: integrity. And I oftentimes speak about life. Life, the acronym meaning leadership, integrity, fidelity, and efficiency.
Yes.
So thank you for utilizing that word with me, integrity. How many attorneys does your agency have? Because you have to review a number of contracts. All these government contracts come through your office, correct?
Yes, sir. Senator, we have 3.
You have 3 for the territory?
That is correct, Senator.
Is that sufficient?
It is not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does the property and procurement department have an updated inventory on government buildings and properties?
Senator, great question. Thank you for that. As a matter of fact, we did not, but we onboarded some summer students. And so I want to say thank you to them. And their job was to put together a catalog of our raw land and facilities. So thank you to those summer students. We are on our way.
Please don't kill the summer students with full-time.
They loved it, Senator.
I could imagine. But I do want to see, and if you know me, today ain't going to be the last that you hear of this question. I definitely want to make sure that we have an inventory of government-owned properties. This senator believes that we need to start becoming independent. Again, I don't think that certain places, certain agencies should be renting from people. We shouldn't be renting nobody place for a police station. We shouldn't be renting nobody place for a fire station, etc. So
1 minute.
I will be talking to you about that. Now, as soon as these students are finished, can we get a copy of this catalog as well?
Absolutely, Senator.
Okay, and if you can, let's make sure that it also tells us, and this isn't for the summer students, but whatever full-time employee you have, if they in this catalog, if they could break down the buildings, whether the buildings are in use or abandoned.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, now, when will the department also strike that? What role does the department, property and procurement, play in agencies' need to rent
Time.
other places?
I'm sorry I missed the last.
What role does your agency play with other agencies having or seeing the need to rent other spaces?
Well, our agency, Senator?
You may.
Thank you. Well, the Department of Property and Procurement is very much involved. When the agencies approach us in regards to rentals, we do have negotiations on our end. Of course, we look at the value that they're interested in. But first of all, we also propose if there's any property. But a lot of times, Senator, the funding does not exist for them to move into a government property that will require significant maintenance. So we do look at those as well, but we are heavily involved in putting the contracts together, et cetera, and negotiating the costs.
Thank you for that. Madam Chair, I beg your indulgence. Two quick, short questions, if I may.
You said two, you know.
Yes, they're short.
You may proceed.
Commissioner nominee, your agency again, do you still maintain what you call central stores in both districts? And the second question will be, are we buying supplies and materials in bulk, or agencies are still able to go out there and purchase as separate agencies?
So, Senator, yes, both of our central stores are operational in both districts. And however, we do order in bulk. We do have supply contracts. But since COVID, the market prices have soared significantly, and there's instability in the market. So some of the things our central stores managers have been doing is having to go open market to get those goods and services. Additionally, some agencies as well may make purchases, and mostly the type of purchases they make are not amounts to supplies that we would have in central stores.
Thank you for your response. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be in touch with the commissioner nominee. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Senator Gittins. Mrs. Alejandro, I was just thinking about, as my colleague was asking some questions, the government has all these buildings that they rent, they lease. And you know how you have landlords and you have slumlords?
Yes.
You have some individuals that rent to the government, that lease to the government, and they don't take responsibility for the wear and tear of their buildings. And I am requesting and asking of you, because I am very hopeful that you would pass this committee favorably, that you look at all these leases and the do's and the don'ts of these leases as it pertains to maintaining your buildings. And I could call a few. I can call a few as it pertains to what the department is responsible for upkeep, and what the responsibility of a landlord. And I think some of these landlords take advantage of the Virgin Islands government. And I am very upset when I work in government and I see that my co-workers and my colleagues or whatever, we had to work under uncomfortable work environment because the landlord didn't think it was a need to fix this or to fix that. So I'm asking you kindly that when you are placed in this position, that you look at these leases and make sure that these landlords take full responsibility of upkeeping their buildings as it pertains to leaking windows when it rains, that people have to move the desk to another side, to leaking ACs in the roof that causing mold. So I beg you. Senator Fonseca.
May I respond?
Yes, you may, please.
Thank you, Senator. I am at the point where I think you may have been a fly on the wall in our office. As a matter of fact, I just sent a follow-up to my team in regards to developing a form for landlord performance that will be issued with all contracts, as well as I did meet with my chief legal counsel in regards to tightening the language for the responsibilities of our landlord. So I believe he was a fly on the wall. Thank you, Senator.
Yes, I guess you know when they say who feels it knows it.
Absolutely.
And I always say if I'm working in a department and I'm a head or a supervisor, if I don't want to work in them conditions, I feel the employees should not work in those conditions. Senator Fonseca, non-committee member, you may proceed with 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and a pleasant good morning. Yes, it's still 11:53 to the listening audience, and it's so nice to see the whole posse come out to support the commissioner. Well, you know, this is my family, and, you know, Miss Alejandra is an ordained minister, impeccable lady. They've been married about 36 years. Brother, look at that, Papa. You know, this is, you know, a reflection of the community values, you know. Of course, you know, Pastor Thomas Alexandra here is you know, my pastor, my brother. I'll tell you a little story, but I don't know if I'd live to tell the story. He said yes. Well, you know, his brother David, named after my father David, so his brother is my brother, and his sister Beulah, named after my aunt Beulah, so his sister is my sister. So Lisa is my sister-in-law, so we all the same family. So I'm encouraging my colleagues, you know, I'll put in a good word. It's an impeccable family. But Madam Chair, I wanted to request through the chair that the commissioner designee do two things. Because, you know, property and procurement, right? You control the government inventory, and specifically there's two areas that I'm interested in. So I'm going to ask through the chair if you can prepare a report detailing all of the government leases with the total cost, because I know IRB the other day, they're paying like $800,000 in lease. I know the Lieutenant Governor office, boy, they paying buku money. So we want to see how much lease money the government is paying. And then also in addition to that, I would like to request through the chair that we have a listing of all of the government vehicles that are authorized for 24-hour use. Because, you know, I was in Carsula Sunday and I saw some vehicle, you know, I ain't going to call the name. But so to those two things, if we can get the total of the government leases, because, you know, I know with $800,000 a lease for the IRB, I'm sure we can amortize that. One quick question, are the WAPA leases controlled by property and procurement, or WAPA is separate?
WAPA is separate.
WAPA is separate, okay. And then also, you know, I would encourage you to let the commissioner, the committee know, because I understand, I heard a question from the Honorable Vice Chair of this committee regarding the amount of attorneys you need. And there's been some turmoil in the department. As a matter of fact, the governor even said that there was some delay with procurement. And as you know, the government has about $8.3 billion that we have to spend. So property and procurement is very, very busy. So if you need a couple more attorneys, let the legislature know, because we're here to provide the assistance, sister-in-law. And then one other thing, I going to be church this Sunday, so look out for me in church. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the time. Blessings to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fonseca. This is our, what should I say? I won't say, he keeps us on our toes, okay, with the jokes and everything. And when he said poopa, Fonseca is here. But Mrs. Alejandro, you are coming before the Committee of Finance next week, is that correct?
That is correct, Senator.
And this is a nomination hearing, so I would ask my colleague, Senator Fonseca, to request that report in the Committee of Finance. I think that would be more the purview to request that document through the chair. At this time, I think I have Senator Carrion. I don't know if he's in the chambers on St. Croix, but he is number 7 on my list. And if he is not there to ask any questions to our nominee, then I would proceed with a short round of questioning for the second round, and this would be 3 minutes. Senator Bolkes, you may proceed with 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner, I was interested to know what strategies would you implement to enhance vendor management and contract supplier relationships?
So right now we have been working with SBA, as well our local offices. They have actually been providing training to those entities as well. We provide training to our vendors in vendor management, even going through the system, the GVI buy system as well. And the fact that we are now maintaining a repository of their documents actually help them to keep it current.
Okay. And how many vendors do you currently have?
Oh, wow. In GVI buy, I want to say, and those would be ones that are in contract, I think about 1,900 in GVI buy. And thousands in the ERP, but they're not specifically contractual vendors in the ERP.
Could you elaborate a little bit more on contractual versus
So contractual would be those that are seeking opportunity with the government, so they bid for government contracts. Whereas in the ERP, while they are also in the ERP, you're a vendor in the ERP, so anyone that gets any checks, etc., you're considered a vendor as well. So since the Department of Finance, ERP is the vendor record management system of the territory. So GVI buy is specific to contracts, those that are bidding on awards and contracts.
Are there any specific requirements for those individuals who want to sign up on a GVI program, like SAMS or whatever else is required?
So if you're doing business with the government, you have to be registered with SAMS because, as you know, majority of our funds are tied to federal funds, and it's a requirement. So on my team also, my very small vendor management team also provide and assist vendors in acquiring their registration.
Okay, one last question. How would you balance the need for speed, if I can call it that, concerning the procurement process, ensuring compliance and due diligence, meaning, sometimes we input our purchase order, you got to wait for the invoice to come back, then you upload the information, it has to go through the approval process, finance is involved. Sometimes this whole process, even though it's designed to have safeguards, right? it takes a lot of time. And how do you foresee any other ways of trying to speed it up a little bit so that vendors in turn would be getting paid on time?
Billing competencies. And I say that only because when we think procurement and speeding things up, most time people see contract, but procurement is the umbrella under which
Time.
there's so many activities that take place. And oftentimes, if we begin a process at procurement with a bad scope of work, it impedes our ability to execute a contract. So there's so much activities that take place. So it's about building competencies, building awareness of the procurement processes as well.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I already crossed the line through designee already, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Bolkes. Senator Franklin Johnson, you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. 3 minutes is not needed. I'm ready to vote, but I'll ask a question. What are some of the challenges that you face right now in this agency? Some of your challenges since you take over or prior to taking over that you face in this agency and how you see yourself getting through these challenges?
Well, I would say number one, let me talk about the external challenge, because that I think is the greatest challenge right now to the government or risk, and that is the vendor pool. The vendor pool, a very small vendor pool to be able to meet the demand right now of the government. That is one thing, and then we have the bonding issues. The ability of these vendors to be able to get bonding, especially when they are exhausted with contracts. They have to wait until that is completed. And I think internally, one of the things internally that I see as an opportunity, though, is our continuous development of the policies and processes, etc. But internally, I think the government on a whole is in recruiting a skilled workforce.
Thank you very much. I wish you well and keep you in my prayer, because if you do well, the Virgin Island government do well.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. I wanted to ask Mrs. Alejandro regarding the fleet of vehicles for the Virgin Islands government. Are these vehicles insured? Do we have insurance on these vehicles?
So we have, the government is self-insured. There is some insurance, but it's mostly when the vehicles are not so much in movement, but we do have insurance.
Okay, so if an employee who did not cause an accident with another vehicle on the road, how does that process go for the damages that occurred with a Virgin Islands government vehicle with a personal vehicle?
So if the employee that is driving a government vehicle was not at fault, they will go through the same process, the police report, and then we would call on the insurance of the car. Yes, on the one who caused the accident. So it would go through the same process as we would as civilians.
And what about vice versa? If an employee with a government vehicle caused the accident and that, say, private citizen vehicle had damages?
Well, it depends, because whether or not, there's a couple of things. Was the employee driving that vehicle? Were they approved to drive the vehicle? Did they cause the accident? Were they negligent? And in some instances, of course, the employee will have to fund that.
Okay. I just stepped off the floor for a second. Did my colleague ask that question before me? No. Okay, good. Senator Joseph, you may proceed with 3 minutes.
Thank you so kindly, Madam Chair. Nominee Alejandro, I wanted to ask you, just in managerial perspective, how have you managed issues with your directives relative to their performance and productivity as well as efficiency? do you do performance appraisals? That's what I'm getting at.
So the department does. Overall, we have been doing those. The managers sit with their employees, but we allow them first to rate themselves. And
Okay.
people are mostly honest when they're rating themselves. And then we share with them what our rating of their performance were.
And now disciplinary issues. Persons who are not performing, persons who are not taking the work seriously and understand how important even the minor role they may think they're playing is there to help move the whole of the organization forward. How do you handle those issues?
From the standpoint, because I have not really gone into all of the divisions on that end, while we have, I do know that we do provide, if they're not performing, the training right now that is on the procurement side of things was literally targeted to those employees that needed extra support in certain areas, whether they were coming short in negotiation section or communicating or those things. We target their specific training for that development purpose. And it is the same, I believe, on the property side with the training that the entire property team is undergoing as well. But we do document those.
Okay, good. And my questions for this round, and this is the final round, is mostly about you and how you manage. Because it's human beings, and we have a lot of issues regarding the shortage of human beings. We need to move things forward with the government. And
One
so,
minute.
have you also performed any coaching? Are you mentoring somebody? That's my question, Madam Chair. And you can finish up on the chair's time. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Your time was called? I don't think your time was called. No.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. So, Senator, I have, and across my career, and I'm happy to say that I actually have one that I coach at the Department of Education. When she came on board, she knew nothing about procurement, but she's here supporting me today, the
30
Director of
seconds.
Procurement for the Department of Education. There are others as well along the field that my Deputy Commissioner, as well as my Chief Procurement Officer. I love coaching. It's my life. I'm passionate about it, so it just happens.
Thank you so much, nominee Alejandro, for your questions. I have no further questions to ask at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Senator Joseph. Mrs. Alejandro, as you are here before us today, I'm sure that you and your team have worked hard on improving processes in property and procurement. But what about any kind of legislation drafts that you think needs to be revised? Because presently I'm, going through all these different codes, and there's a lot of things from 1954 that has not been revised. So can you tell me if there are any legislation that you would be bringing to us to say there needs some amendments?
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, we have. We began the process in the 33rd legislature proposing and changing the laws that were on the books for eons. So we began that process. Presently, we do have drafted legislation that, of course, we are going through our administration first. Before we complete the process. But we are, and some of the things we are looking at is addressing the bonding issues, how we can assist bidders better in that, creating baseline requirements for entrepreneurs, startup businesses. So those are some of the things we're looking at to move the process forward, but we do intend to bring before this body proposed legislation.
Thank you. Senator Potter, you may proceed with 3 minutes.
Hello. Thank you very much. I may not need my full 3 minutes. Like my friend from Frederickstead, I'm ready to vote on this nominee right now. But since I have a little bit of time, I wanted to ask you, Commissioner, as a leader who has really risen through the ranks in various progressively more important roles in this community, and as a person of faith, and as a person who has a strong family, how has faith and family, or what role has faith and family played in helping you to successfully navigate your way through this very successful career journey?
Thank you, Senator. And I think, again, I go back to my testimony in terms of believing and knowing that it was inspirational. And I say that because I think that's why ministry came first. For me, that call came very early in my life to teach me lessons about people and the values of people, valuing people. And I think with that integrity, and that's where my integrity is, it's founded in my faith. And I believe that I answer again to someone greater, God, higher. And so with that, that's how I live. And I try my very best to manage in that vein.
Thank you very much. Well said. Madam Chair, I return the rest of my time.
Thank you, Senator Potter. As I got to know you just a little bit, I think what emanates from you is integrity. And you have a team behind of you, and you've moved through the ranks in property and procurement. And you establish relationships when you work with individuals, but then when you climb in the ladder, you have to work with your subordinates differently. So how is that relationship with your staff? Are they elated to know that you are nominated as their commissioner? Tell me how that is with your staff.
I believe because we've had this relationship for so long, Senator, I know quite a few of the staff that has been there, the team that has been there since I was there back in the early 2000s and to present. I believe all were very excited for me to take this position and this role, particularly because, we've had that relationship. But then I think my procurement team was a little bit jealous to let me go. So it's intentional for me not to visit them as often. But it has been very welcoming. My team has been very supportive. I can't tell you the amount of texts that I had from those that couldn't be here today. They have all been very, very supportive of my nomination.
Thank you. Senator Gittins on St. Croix, you may proceed with 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You asked a question earlier to the nominee regarding damages to government vehicles. However, I'd like to flip that and ask about the department's involvement when it comes to government property. I know that traffic signage, guardrails and whatnot will come under specifically the Department of Public Works. However, because you're the agency responsible for recording all government-owned properties, I'm asking, what is your agency's involvement to that end?
So and these would be government-owned properties. So once there is any type of damage that is done to the facility, the agency's responsibility is to notify us about those damages, and as well as the Department of Public Works. And a lot of times in those instances, those damages would be addressed by the agency themselves in putting out solicitations or bids and acquiring the funds.
Hence my question to you, how involved is your agency? Are these reports being forwarded to you?
Not as they should, Senator, but we do get those reports because it's important for us. Because as we build infrastructure and improve infrastructure, it's important to be added to the schedule of values for our property insurance.
So these types of discussions should be had in cabinet level meetings, and I'm asking you to have these types of discussions with your fellow cabinet members so that you
1
can
minute.
properly have these things documented. If you're the agency responsible for documenting these government-owned properties, then as they're damaged, you should also have that information, and we should be going after individual insurances so that the taxpayer, this doesn't drop on the taxpayers' backs. And I'm going to be holding agencies accountable to this. We need to follow this through from A to Z. Thank
Yes,
you so much, and I'm looking forward to supporting your nomination. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Gittins. There was one thing I wanted to ask Mrs. Alejandro. Do you have a strategic plan that for the department that you would like to share with this body?
A strategic plan.
Like anything that I know you have your short-term goals, your long-term goals, but anything like a plan, immediate plan that you have that you that you may want to start right away?
We are working on a plan, and I know the property division in particular is working on the management plan for the facilities as well. The only other plan right now that we've completed is our disaster recovery plan as the responders responsible for ESF 1 and 7. 4.
Okay, colleagues, I think this concludes our second round of questions. And before I entertain your motion, I would ask my colleagues if there were any other comments, any questions that you wanted to ask before I entertain Senator Joseph's motion. No? So, Mrs. Alejandro, I'll give you this opportunity before I entertain this motion that you would like to say to this body before you are excused from the well.
Thank you, Senator Capehart. Well, I would like to say thank you to all senators today, the committee senators. I would like to thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time and for, asking those questions that we need to hear to be able to serve our people. And I also want to thank my team, my staff that is here with me, supporting me today. They have been awesome during this entire process. And my family that is here today as well. My husband, thank you so much, and my son that is here present with us today. But to two other special people, I want to say thank you. I lost my mom a year ago. And so in the well with me, supporting me and representing her is my two auntie mommies. So I want to say thank you to them as well. And thank you to this body and the Governor Albert Bryan Jr. for his nomination. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would give you this opportunity also to have your team stand and your family to stand to be identified today.
Thank you.
So your family. So family, if you could raise your hand because, okay, that's family. Okay. Mr. Alejandro, you're proudly here today. Congratulations for this great nominee that the governor has sent us. And to the staff of Property and Procurement, Mr. Richards, who I'm very familiar with, thank you. Thank you for all as your support team. So at this time, I would, you may sit. At this time, I would excuse Mrs. Alejandro from the well, and then okay, my colleague is suggesting to have you stay so you could see, just feel the process in the well. So at this time, I will entertain a motion. Motion, Senator Carla Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you kindly, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and colleagues, I move that the governor's nominee for the Department of Property and Procurement Commissioner, Mrs. Lisa Alejandro, be favorably voted upon in this committee and forwarded to the full body for further consideration and action. I so move.
So, no, so yeah, in the body we don't clap. I'll give you the opportunity to show your emotions later. So properly moved by Senator Carla Joseph and seconded by Senator Bolkes, seconded by Senator Johnson and seconded by Senator Potter. May I have roll call on the motion?
Senator Angel L. Bolkes Jr. Senator Bolkes Jr., yay. Senator Diane T. Capehart.
Yes.
Senator Capehart, yes. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins.
Yes.
Senator Gittins, yes. Senator Maurice C. James. Senator James absent. Senator Franklin D. Johnson. Senator Johnson, yes. Senator Carla J. Joseph. Yes. Senator Joseph, yes. Senator Milton E. Potter. Yes. Senator Potter, yes. Madam Chair, you have 6 yea, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This motion carries. Lisa Alejandro, the governor's nominee as commissioner to the Department of Property and Procurement, has been voted upon favorably, and it has been passed by this committee and now will be reported out of this committee to the full body for further consideration.
Thank you.
At this time, I would allow you to. So at this time, I would just like to say, Mrs. Alejandra, this is your first hurdle that you have passed. And your resume, your experiences says it all for yourself. You are one of those nominations that I know right off the bat that you would go through this committee favorably. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations. I look forward to all the good work that you will be doing with your team, and may God bless you. At this time, colleagues, we will take a recess of half an hour for lunch.
G6 Productions.
The Committee on Rules and Judiciary is out of recess. Do I hear a motion? Can you please recognize Senator Bolker's mic? Motion, Senator Bolkers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move to remove Bill number 35-0013, Amendment number 35-255, an act amending Title 20 Virgin Islands Code Part 2, Chapter 35, relating to the issuance of limited local purpose identification cards and operators' licenses from the agenda. I so move.
Hearing no objections, properly moved by Senator Bolkers, seconded by Senator Carla Joseph. Any objections on the motion? Hearing none, so ordered. Who speaks on Bill number 35-0036?
I do, Madam Chair.
Senator Bolkers, you may proceed with 2 minutes, a brief synopsis of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I ask for your support and colleagues for this measure as it aims to clarify the duties and responsibilities of the Executive Director of the Taxicab Commission, ensuring that there's a clear understanding of their role within the organization. This clarification enhances accountability and it also fosters clear expectations from the Executive Director's performance and enables effective evaluation of their work. This clarity ensures that the Executive Director can focus on core responsibilities and effective management from day-to-day operations of the Commission. It can lead to more efficient decision-making and implementation of the policy, improve accountability, streamline operations, enhancing regulatory compliances, and promoting professionalism of customer service, ensuring fairness and transparency when dealing with their facilitating stakeholders, the taxi men and women of the taxi industry. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bolkers. Who speaks on Bill number 35-0075?
I do, Madam Chair.
Proceed with your 2-minute synopsis.
Madam Chair, I support Bill number 35-0075 and ask for the support of the committee members as establishing a Virgin Islands Governor's Day in the territory is a powerful step towards advancing self-determination and our constitutional maturity. This initiative reflects the commitment of our democratic values, citizen engagement, and a transparent governance, all of which are vital in the development and progress of a territory. A Governor's Day provides an invaluable platform and fosters an environment that nurtures civic education and awareness, and therefore encouraging the development of an informed and politically conscious citizenry. In closing, the primary focus of a Governor's Day is and should be on facilitating meaningful and direct interaction between the governor and the citizens they serve, a crucial aspect of fostering transparency, accountability, and public engagement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bolkers. Who speaks on Bill number 35-0078?
I do, Madam Chair.
You may proceed with 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, I ask for your support of Bill number 35-0078 to begin the groundwork on establishing a national dish and dessert. By casting your vote in favor of this initiative, we have the opportunity to create a unifying culinary emblem that can enhance our cultural identity, stimulating tourism, boosting economic opportunities, and preserving our rich culinary heritage. Through the selection of a national dish and dessert, we can proudly showcase the diversity and distinctiveness of our cuisine, drawing attention of our unique flavors, techniques, and traditional ingredients. This endeavor can also attract visitors eager to savor our authentic culinary experiences, but also it can foster a sense of pride among the fellow citizens as we come together